Oh my, oh my, oh my. Dinner would last a minimum of 3 hours at my grandmother's house. But our closely guarded secret, the Chiquera family brajol recipe.
Yeah, my grandfather was actually he was a draft dodger during World War I. So he moved to a boarding house in Warren, Ohio. So he rode out the war there. But the one thing I do remember my grandmother telling me was that my grandfather developed a taste for pancakes because they served pancakes there. And every time she would make pancakes at home for me when I come to stay, the pancake was the size of the whole pan,
My grandfather had a little store in the bottom of their home, and, it was a gas station, and he sold produce and things like that. And I can remember, he had a garden a couple levels up, and my grandmother had I remember this cactus plant sitting outside of her door. And I got to southern Italy and saw all of these houses with these magnificent gardens on different levels everywhere. And I said to myself, now I understand, what my grandparents were doing. They were taking their part of Italy and bringing it to America. It was wonderful.
They came over here. People didn't really want them. They spoke a different language. They had different customs, different foods, and different ways of living. And they worked every single day of their lives. And my grandmother, they never went to a restaurant. Well, for one thing, she was such a great cook. Why pay money and be disappointed?
I mean, we had the spaghettis. My mom did all the bread baking. You'd come home from school and there'd be bread baking. She was a really good cook, yeah. I mean, she made all the macaronis and spaghettis. She made pasta fazool. She made brajol. She made homemade gnocchis, all kinds of homemade noodles. I mean, she made just about anything you can think of.
Oh, my mother was a fabulous cook. Everything was like low burn. Friday we couldn't eat meat, but she made eggplant, and we'd take 5-6 sandwiches to school with us and let the oil just go to the bags.
Oh, I loved her chicken soup. Oh, and her homemade noodles. She used to make those noodles. They were cut up and they were floured right there. And she let them sit like maybe 2 days, and then she would take and gather them all up and would cook them and have those. Yeah, then she used to make pig's feet. But I remember those pig feet sitting on the back porch on that.
Yeah, you don't see no pig's feet much anymore.
No. Mm-mm.
At home, we had some specialties. My mother made polenta, chicken or even rabbit sometimes. Remember having it with squirrel. Whatever polenta was left, you put it in the refrigerator, and the next day you had it fried with syrup on it.
We actually had an interesting thing happen with that. My daughter was cooking for a little bar, and she took the recipe down and made them. We had all these people. I haven't had these since my grandmother died. I haven't had any of these since my mother died. They were actually calling people up and saying, come down here, you got to try these.
It wasn't unusual for us to go to school and have broccoli sandwiches in our lunch, and we never even thought twice about it. I
remember being introduced to pizza. My father took us to Johnstown to a restaurant called Santos, and Santos served us pizza, and pizza was not everywhere like you find it today on every pizza shop on every corner.
If you did stop down to visit my grandmother, in my later years as we got older, even as teenagers when we started driving, you go down there and it just start taking the food out of the refrigerator and making you eat. You had to eat. No matter who you were, you had to eat something.
And I guess because of the fact that you didn't have no restaurants to go to or this and that, you better learn how to cook because else you ain't going to eat.
We had such great holiday meals. Every Thanksgiving or Christmas, I think about them because, Thanksgiving was a holiday made to order for, and people come from a food culture. Oh my God, we'd start off with the spinach soup, and then the second course would be pasta, gnocchi, or spaghetti, and the meatballs. The meatballs were never mixed in the spaghetti. The meatballs were in a separate bowl, so that's probably another course. And then the turkey and the mashed potatoes, and then salad at the end. The salad was the last course, and then you'd have pumpkin pie with. That was always pumpkin pie. They adapted to the Thanksgiving American tradition, and then that ended after once my grandfather passed away.
And we would go over on a Sunday, and you'd start out with plates, cheese, salamis, whatever, and then you go on to main courses, usually pasta, or brajol was my favorite, which is just you take meat, pound it to an inch of its life, you wrap it up and put regatta cheese and olives and whatnot. Okay, I'll give you a secret. One of the secret was my innovation of my grandmother is she wrapped bacon around it before she cooked it in the sauce. If you can imagine such a splendid innovation.
My other mother, grandma, made bread too, but it was a different quality and texture, and it was very good, but it wasn't, they were different.
When I smell certain things, the memories come back. Like dough, raw dough, the smell of bread dough being made.
And it was this cheese bread. And I don't have the recipe to that either. And it smelled like a bunch of cheese. And some people didn't like it, but we loved it.
One time my mother and my father gave me one that was hot, and I never ate a pepper since then.
The great thing was after we were 10 years old, we were allowed to have wine. I don't know if it was watered down or not, but that made us the cat's meow, at our school, because they were like, what are you talking about? You're drinking wine with dinner? I'm like, I'm just telling you.
There was always big gatherings at our house, and it didn't have to be a special occasion. It would just be Sunday or friends were coming over, and there was a spread on the table all day long.
Every year it was the most fabulous time. Of course, the fishes. And my grandfather would get the real calamari and the ink sauce from down the Strip District. And he'd be over the sink, making his calamari and the pasta. And, my grandmother would be frying the smelts. And it was just so fabulous. It was just the greatest night, and they'd break out the brandy and it was just awesome. And, the loss of that, I keep up the tradition, by the way, but of course the fishes have changed because no one, my kids weren't real crazy about the smell. So I've changed it now to shrimp and crab dip. It's still fish, but a different seafood more than just fish.
I went to a nationality church, Italian nationality church. So we still had all the festivals. We had all the carnivals, the spaghetti dinners. Maybe that's who I am. It defines me, but I don't see that today. Showing my age, I think.